This morning, I'm going to be listening to our first Laurence Crane piece on the channel. Um, and it fittingly is one of his most popular piano pieces. It's called 20th Century Music, and it was written uh, funnily in 1999, right? So at the very end of the 20th century. In fact, it was written on the last day of the 20th century. It's about 3 minutes long, and you can see that it's really simple to play. Every chord in it is about 4 seconds long. It's dedicated to everyone involved with 20th century music, and it takes about 3 minutes to play through. Um, I believe the recording that's easiest to find online is a performance by Michael Finnessy. Don't know when this album dropped, but Michael Finnessy performed all of the solo piano works of Laurence Crane on a professionally recorded album. Um, and Laurence Crane is sort of like this UK-based composer who's associated with this ensemble called Apartment House. I'll pull up his bio or whatever I can find here. Wikipedia is fine, I guess. So he was born in 1961, and Apartment House has given over 40 performances of his works. If you look at his list of works, I guess I could pull that up. There was a big festival on the year of his 60th birthday, big festival of his stuff. And that's where this chronological list of works comes from, is this festival website. But you can see it's lots of solo piano and lots of chamber works with solo piano. Um, then there's the occasional piece with guitar, like three pieces for guitar. Um, his opus starts in 1985. Uh, yeah, one of his only pieces with clarinet is this one, Sparling. Um, I think the pieces get a little bit more elaborate towards the late 90s, early 2000s, because at that point he's starting to get actual commissions. Um, but I think at the start he was largely performing a lot of his own music. Can't remember where I've heard that, but that's the impression I get from his piano pieces, is that he was just playing them. He has a piece for lever harp that's kind of interesting. This is probably the biggest one. Piccolo, three soprano saxes, horn, three trumpets, three trombones, bass trombone, piano, and double bass. Then I guess his chamber symphony is also really large from 2007, and Sound of Horse 2009. So that's sort of the upper end of what he writes, is like not quite chamber orchestra. And if I highly encourage you to look at some of the footage from this festival. I was looking at a lecture recital on one of his pieces, and apparently a lot of his piano pieces, he's like been on record saying that they're completely abstract and just exploring the potential of these abstract musical ideas. So, for example, in this piece, the idea is like in the first four measures here, like what is the potential of that? Um, but all of his titles for his piano pieces are either tongue in cheek like this, or dedicated to a person or about a specific person. So that tells me that he sort of the titles really aren't what the piece is about. Um, but he just didn't fully go into absolute music and just title them like Untitled One, Untitled Two, etc. In 2021, the Oxford Leader Festival commissioned Crane to write a piece that responds to the work of marine biologist Rachel Carson, which resulted in the piece Natural World for soprano and piano slash sampler. And then in 2021 was also the 60th birthday anniversary, and the events in there included like Plus Minus Ensemble, Ex Audi Vocal Ensemble, and of course Apartment House. Currently, he's professor at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, where a lot of these events were also hosted. Yeah, as I was saying, he says, I use simple and basic musical objects, common chords and intervals, arpeggios, drones, cadences, fragments, and scales of melodies. The materials seem familiar, perhaps even rather ordinary, but my aim is to find fresh beauty in these objects by placing them in new structural and formal contexts. All of the scores I have in the of his piano solo piano works at least are even older than this. Um, so yeah, I'll put a link to the recording in the video description, and I'll see you in 3 minutes. Okay, so I think that quote that I read out from Laurence Crane made me think about this a little bit differently. It was my first time seeing that quote. Um, it definitely has a very clear form. It's sort of like every 8 measures, if you think of it as a section, it's like A, B, B prime, A, B double prime. And that's like something like sonata form a little bit. But also the musical material in question, I think, is really this A going to G and back up to A, like this sort of oscillation. Um, because you can even see it in the B sections. Even though the bass is jumping up and down in parallel, there's this motion A, G, A, G, A, G, A, G. And apart from like the first 2 measures of the A section, that is in the piece. Like it's just constantly happening. Um, so I think that's kind of interesting. I like the minimal, um, there's no dynamics, but there is like this idea at the beginning of like let vibrate and accent and also pedal all the way through. So even in the first 2 measures, you get a really clear sense of the piece's character. I've printed off a number of Crane's piano scores and played them myself, and this is the one that I always keep coming back to. Like I really enjoy playing it. So I think there's something there. Like it's noticeably, uh, it's really an interesting one, even in the scope of his other piano pieces. If it feels like I'm super excited about this Laurence Crane stuff, it's because in the series so far we've had a bit of a build up to this piece. I think we've looked um, at least 3 other pieces that were dedicated to Laurence Crane or like a tribute to him. So it's nice that we're getting into his stuff now. The next 3 pieces actually are going to be a bunch of nocturnes by Salvatore Sciarrino that he wrote in 1998. So from this postmodern stuff straight back into high modernism, um, which is being written after the fall of the Berlin Wall in Italy.